Welcome to the second episode of Series 89, everyone. This month we have returning guest Pete Petrusha to learn about the game he is designing called Ghost in the Shell, a forged in the dark cyberpunk RPG set in the world of Ghost in the Shell. In today's episode, we finished learning about the history of Ghost in the Shell before diving into character creation. But before we get to that, we do have some calls to action coming up after the show. Here's what to expect. You can join me here after the show to learn about our Undying Bonds stream, to figure out when that is going to be coming out next, hopefully soon. Info on where the Ghost in the Shell Kickstarter is sitting right now, as well as information on our Patreon. You can also hear how to leave a review for the show and our patron thank yous, as usual. With all of that out of the way, enjoy the show, everyone.
You know, something fascinating. I think I found this before the Ghost in the Shell project, but it's like, I think it's the National Institute or Intelligence Institute or something. It's a part of like the government bureaucracy. But, you know, Congress needs to know, like, what is 2040 going to look like? Because they're going to make laws today that affect 2040. And they want to know things like, you know, what does society look like? And those reports are fascinating because they're not, at least from my recollection, they're not like insanely long, and they're more like, I don't want to say they're fiction, you know, but it's like a 50-page thing that talks about things.
Document,
And I think they're like 10 years or 20 years or something. So I remember reading one in the 2010s, and it was like talking about like, hey, 2028 or 2029 or whatever it was. They're like, we will have cyber eyes. Like, we just will. Like, people will have complete replacement eyes that'll be far superior than they are today. You know, it was talking about the prosthetics that we will have access to, like Ghost in the Shell, where they were like they're literally telling Congress in 2028 or 2029, people will be able to lift a car with their arm or leg because they will have an augmented arm or leg. They will be able to do this. Like that will exist. Not saying it's everywhere, but saying that these technologies
we're not saying insurance will
exist.
cover it. We're saying it is an option for people who can pay for it.
Insurance will cover. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But it's so those are fascinating. Like when you get to read them, especially because like now that we teeter on the edge of all of these cyberpunk worlds, you know, I think there's a reason why 2077 was like, we caught up to 2020, like push that back. You know, like, you know, these games that have like, you know, the title, you know, Shadowrun famously was 2050. And then they, in every iteration, they caught on much, you know, it seemed like every year there's new releases. They were always moving the year up, and then new editions were a decade further, you know, it was just not only a fresh facelift, but it was, you know, knowing that, hey, the reality is going to catch up. And part of the allure is that we're out there, you know?
I mean, we've already surpassed Back to the Future. So, you know, like, it's too late now.
Which if you're not in that mindset, which I hope you are, if you've been listening to this podcast for, you know, at this point, but like that has been the allure for me that brought me to cyberpunk games immediately and gave me a love that I've held forever, is that it's a way of like really looking at the future and putting yourself in the shoes of a person who lives in a society that isn't that far-fetched. I mean, like things like augmented reality, virtual reality, like I've been toying with characters in and trying to feel out what that feels like in stories and like, you know, and as a person in a game since the 90s. That's like a luxury, you know, that we could like live in that space and not just be like talked to about it. You know, like that you actually then have some, it's not practical experience, but you know, as Google Glass comes into place, you have a lot of thoughts about it because this isn't the first time you've been introduced to it. You know, like when it comes to cloud storage, or in these cases, like when it comes to cyber prosthetics or downloading your consciousness. I mean, I don't know how important these questions will be to our day-to-day lives, but obviously if they do become parts of our day-to-day lives, they will be huge questions and they will be the biggest challenges we've ever had, hence Ghost in the Shell. But the cool thing about Cyberpunk, like a lot of other stories we get to live vicariously through, is just the near reality of it all.
Yeah.
That this stuff is all coming.
Right. Well, I think
you get in a flying car accident, that will be in our lifetime,
computer screens in cars years ago would have felt like so futuristic. And now it's like, like my car, printing directions off of MapQuest or whatever. And now it's like, no, my car just knows where to go, I mean, because I think about it that way a lot, it feels so hard to predict like what's going to happen in the future and like what will things look like in 10 years. But it's very easy for us to kind of go back and say like, what were we doing 10 years ago? My siblings are like 11 and 13 years younger than me. And just like the vast difference, like when we talk about our experiences in middle school, of like, like my mom was like, well, why didn't you, do you remember why you didn't call me or what? And I was like, Mom, we didn't have cell phones yet. Like we didn't, and she's like, oh, that's right. Like Mary had a cell phone, but you never did. You didn't get one till high school, So it's like how quickly things are changing just between like what my siblings did, what my kids do and things like that. And so then to just kind of like project that a little bit into the future too, like how different things will be, now when my kids are in college from when I was in college and how fast things change that it when you look at it as like a pinpoint in time, you're like, that seems so impossible, but you realize how much has changed just in the last 5 or 10 years. It's like, oh, okay, really isn't that out of the question. Like, it's really not that crazy.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
And obviously a lot of it doesn't come to be, but some of it does.
Right.
Yeah.
But like art, like Ghost in the Shell, Star Trek, all that sort of stuff inspires people to, can I make that cool sci-fi thing?
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And I'd be willing to bet like a lot of people in like the cybernetics field were inspired by Ghost in the Shell.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. If you dedicated your life to it, right? I'm sure you've watched, consumed a lot of media about it.
Exactly.
I don't know why that just made me think of Skynet. I just was thinking of all these people who now work for Skynet and we should have known. Yeah. The Terminator. Yeah, I have this lingering notion that I should mention it because I don't know if it'll come up otherwise, but I love one of the things Ghost in the Shell because of it being a product of the 90s. It still had like that. If you're old like me, you remember like there was a movie called Hackers in the 90s. And maybe I was young then, but it's still like I remember it. It had like this illusion of like what we thought maybe virtual reality could be, of like what the internet could be. And you see it like in Ready Player One of like, oh, we have avatars. But like this was a period where we looked at like, what if you just get thrown and cyberspace looks like maybe the digital outline or silhouette of a city? Or what if you get thrown and it's a little dreamlike and you can kind of manipulate what it looks like and where you can go and maybe you float where you're going or you run at the speed of light. And Ghost in the Shell obviously had visuals of these things in these periods of the 90s and the 2000s. So we got a lot of like these literally floating around in like the net, and there being these nodes of information that have physical firewalls or like counter intrusion measures that are like physical, that they're actually fighting, which is very much what we see in role-playing games. But it's neat because like then we have these hallmarks of the series that actually take us to these places of like where we have this creative freedom of a lot of times it being like, okay, like I immerse my consciousness into the net or into this person's psyche as I plug into the back of their neck. And I then go inside. And as I invade, but we have a lot of this like 80s, 90s like look and appearance of it, of like there are actually these round orbs of information. And, if we get closer, they open up and we could dive in. And when we dive in, we might open a door and be in a bedroom and it's black. And, and then we see the person sitting in the bed and then the color starts to come in, which is a visual paradise for us as game masters. But sometimes we take for granted with like, stuff like Ready Player One. Now we see with CGI, all these versions of it that tell us what it looks like and it looks too real. But it's fun to kind of the throwback of it, which is there's so many throwbacks in Ghost in the Shell.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. It's interesting the parts that like didn't come true that we still hold on to, like those like you said, the concept of like a firewall being like very much like a physical, and it's like we still see that in a lot of sort of like futuristic media, even though we're like, we encounter firewalls in everything we do every day and it's not a physical wall. But like we're like, we've held on to that.
Wouldn't even think about it. Yeah.
That we've kind of held on to that image of it that was created in the 90s because it's like that's what feels, kind of relevant in how you want to imagine it too.
I know those Shadowrun video games, like when you go on the net, it would be like a blue silhouette of a world. Yeah. And there'd be little ice things that look like little different monsters to face. But, just this kind of, by default, I think you're going to imagine that. If you consume Ghost in the Shell medium, you're going to think more of like when I hack into someone, like that there is like this blue electronic sort of hissing white noise thing around you that is like the world and that you're floating in it. And when you choose to fly forward, you fly forward. And so you get to the next node, which is the location of a person or the nearest object that's connected. Oh, and speaking of I think the crowdfunding campaign, so I think I mentioned cool deluxe book. There is an adventure book that they're going to be putting together. I've heard a few other things that are like, accessories, but I don't want to put that out into the world until I know they're for sure. Yeah. Like I do believe there's a playing card deck, but there's more to be seen.
Yes, and the quick start is already available for people, or at least will be like once the Kickstarter starts. So people can kind of go take a look and see like what see what some of the art looks like, kind of get a sense for the rules and things like that. If it's something that you want to try out with your group and stuff, that's already out there. I've seen a number of people talk about, like, I've been really excited, and a couple of my friends have reached out like, have you seen this? Like, this looks really cool. And I was like, well, actually, I know Pete, so we're going to talk about it. Actually, we're friends, so.
It's nice to know people.
Yep. It is. But yeah, I've definitely seen a number of people in like my various Discords and things like that are really excited about it. So I hope it goes well, because I think this is a thing that people are looking forward to and excited about. And I'm really excited about like the concept of a cyberpunk game that isn't just like, all very crunchy combat kind of stuff. Like I'm really excited for that.
CBR plus PNK that was done by
Caberpink.
Mythworks. Yeah, there you go.
That's what we kept calling it when we were like reading it for the Ennies, because we were like, because I don't like, you don't want to say CPR and PNK, like, so we just called it Caberpink.
Yeah.
I love it so much. It's so cool.
So, I mean, obviously, like that would be something noteworthy as something similar in vein. Just the fact that it did cyberpunk, and to its credit, it did the most minimalist cyberpunk I've ever seen, which is incredible.
Yeah.
If you can run Forge in the Dark, you're like, wow, I could run Forge in the Dark at a drop of a hat. In 15 minutes, you guys can make characters and we're good to go.
Yeah, the whole game is in a box like this big. Like it's like it's all pamphlet sized. Like
5 of them are your character sheets for players.
Exactly.
Right?
I think there's like 6 pamphlets in there.
Vowels.
Yeah, it's great.
So without thinking about it, I'm sure there's been inspiration there that I should give credit to, because clearly I've read and run that before. So it's that exists.
Yes. Yeah, there's a lot of good. I think cyberpunk is one of those genres that it's like, as much as a lot of it kind of overlaps, I still feel like every version of cyberpunk games that I've seen like really does iterate on the genre in a very different way. As much as, like Shadowrun, and I'm trying to think now off the top of my head, literally. Yeah, cyberpunk. How about the game that's actually called Cyberpunk? Yeah, you can remember that one, Amelia. Great job. That like they kind of do lean more into that like combat heavy kind of a thing. They all do it a little bit differently. And so I think in a way that I don't think a lot of like fantasy games always do. I think, because D&D is such a such a big name in fantasy games, that I think a lot of them are like, okay, we have to start here and then kind of move off of that. That like a lot of them have some of that in there still.
Cyberpunk games are intense too. I mean, sci-fi games are in a lot of ways, because they have elements of gear and technology that other games don't have to worry about.
Right.
That, like, you need a lot of answers to things that are scientific, and I mean, you can. I'm not saying you have to, but I think a lot of them feel like
magic. I don't know. Yeah.
Which leads to a lot of crunch, which leads to a lot of writing, which leads to a lot of art, which leads to a lot of cost. So it does as a genre make itself more difficult than a lot. Same with space operas, though. I mean, anything that's got ships and
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm very excited for this.
You're gonna like it. I mean, that's one of the best things when I think about the CBR plus PNK, like making characters. Like, it's a dream, because like if you're like me, I mean, there's so many times that I've made Shadowrun characters and it'd be like 2 to 4 hours. And like, that's not how it has to be by any means.
No.
And like, as a designer, I can look at it and go, oh, if you're paying attention, doing your thing, you could do this pretty quick. Like, I mean, it's still maybe an hour, 40 minutes or something.
Yeah, I think even the person that's like most familiar with the system, you're still like, there's still a lot of decisions to be made.
Yeah. And Cyberpunk 2020 characters were a lot faster than like Shadowrun, but you could get really lost in like, shopping for cybernetics because there were so many fun toys. But when we get to like CBR plus PNK and then you get to like this, like it's awesome because it kind of blows your mind because these characters generally are always so time consuming. And then instead, when you get these playbook sheets that are like mostly filled out and you have these pointed choices, like it's just a lot quicker and easier and a lot less taxing. And it gets you playing faster, but it gives you all that same enthusiasm for your character. But I think that also is something like the three of us are all parents, so we're all also looking at like the common person today playing is just whether it's like because of school and job, because you can't just go to school or you have kids or more people have more jobs than ever before. Like the whole movement of a tabletop gaming has gotten quicker to the table, right? Like shorter and to the point, more one shots, even though people tell me all the time, like, what do I want out of a game is like campaign play and 20 sessions in 4 years. And I'm like, you don't want that. You think you want that. Like that's a dream that you've been living towards, but nobody actually wants that because like at the table, like we're all busy and we have phones and we have jobs and people and kids.
I think that the key with some of that stuff too, though, is feeling like you can do that, like that time to get to the table is shorter, but you still like are maintaining as much agency and like like personal say over your character too. Yeah. And like that's the balance that it's hard to strike sometimes. It's like, okay, I want to get people to the table faster, but I want to make sure that like you still feel like you got to make the character that you want to make. And that's where having some of those choices be narrative rather than saying like, okay, you have to spend this many credits on these kinds of cybernetics that then do like these things. And you can just be like, cool, like what do you want to have? You have that and it works how you imagine it works. Let's go. I mean, but like still letting people have that kind of imagination and that sort of like individuality within their character too. And that's sometimes a tough balance to strike. And I think that's where sometimes things like Powered by the Apocalypse or Forged in the Dark kind of lose some people is like you get to that playbook and you're like, oh, I don't get to make that many decisions about your character, about my character. But then like, the realization of like, oh, it's just that it's all narrative. I don't have to like spend points to make it do those things.
Yeah.
Like you still can have the cybernetics that you want and they can still do what you want. You just don't have to spend 45 minutes making sure that you spent exactly enough credits and put enough points into things to get there. You can just have them.
No, yeah. And it can be daunting because, just depending where you come from, like what is role playing to you,
Right. Yeah.
And knowing that with people who come from cyberpunk games, which I mean, a lot of people who like Ghost in the Shell, they're probably already role playing and they're probably playing Cyberpunk 2077. Right. Like they're going to be playing like the new hotness and doing what we always used to do, taking whatever system they're playing and making it Ghost in the Shell or whatever they needed to be for the time period. Sure. So, it'll be interesting to pull them over, but knowing that audience exists, also having some throwbacks for knowing who some of the people coming over will be, of trying to give them the experience I want with like the Forge in the Dark thing, but having things that make it more familiar, and make the crossover easier and trying to appease the wider audience as much as you can without sacrificing things, because clearly like you don't try to make everyone happy. Like you try to make the thing with the tenets that you have and the vision you have for the project. And then, then try to be like, well, how many of those people did I do a little bit for every, audience that I can,
Right. Yeah. Without like diluting it so much that it becomes for no one. Right. Yeah, because that's also the balance that you have to strike. Because like if something is for everyone, then really it's for no one.
Exactly. Yeah.
And making sure that you're not losing, the individuality of the game in that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is always nice when the company does get a game designer. I mean, sometimes you have the conditions of like, hey, I need this by then. So like there's the limited time of things like a job, like deadlines that you may not have control over, like if you are the personal creator of things. But the flip side is that, it means that they went and got somebody for the job who is going to be like gung ho about it, like is all in for reasons. Like you're not just looking at like, who do I have in my roster of people and who's the best fit. It is cool when it's something like this where they're like, hey, I think I should approach Pete about this. So
here's somebody that I know likes cyberpunk things, knows how to design for this kind of feeling, and this is also what we're going for. Yeah, rather than just being like, I don't know, we know Doug designs games and we need a game.
Sure. And this hopefully leads to the situations where it may not be the game that like you wanted it to be, or the game that any one person like their favorite take of cyberpunk, but hopefully everyone will see it and go, but that's a really unique and awesome take on cyberpunk that is like totally Ghost in the Shell. Like that's like what you go for, is you want people, just like some mediums, you don't want to bore them with the stuff that like I was saying, this kind of game can be kind of brooding. So as a game designer at a tabletop game, I'm going to try to help with that a little bit, right? Because like while them watching the shows can feel brooding, that's not the experience I want you to have. I want you to know, but at the table, I want you to feel like it's faster or not as brooding, right?
Yeah.
So there are elements that, obviously you don't always take the core themes all the way to the bank.
Right. Deciding
it's
what
a very
themes
slow-paced
make it.
thing.
Yeah, well, and I think we see that.
Let's make it real slow paced. People will love it. Like that'd be.
I think that's a struggle in like any kind of adaptation of anything too. Like you see that a lot when like books get adapted to movies and things like what do you take to this new media that like maintains the heart of the thing while adapting it for what you are making? Because like the things that you put in a book are like the way people interact with a book is very different than you interact with a movie or a TV show or, a role-playing game or things like that. Like how do you maintain the essence of what it is while still making sure that it, you're not trying to put a square peg in a round hole of like, okay, it has to match perfectly, but you're also asking people to tell their own stories. So it's like you have a property that its whole thing is the story that it told. But now I want you to be able to like tell your own stories in this too. And that's tough. I don't know. I'm always intrigued, especially like by IP games where it's like, how do you take this like book or movie or, that like has already told its own story. And then you're like, now you tell a story, but it's still that thing. Like,
some are better than others for sure.
For sure.
I see some that I pick on sometimes in person, but I try not to broadcast that stuff,
right?
Because it's not the IP's fault. It's just some things just don't translate to what you're trying to take it to.
Absolutely.
Some games like with Chew, I talk all the time about like, this is incredible because while the comics were so awesome to read and were so much fun and were all over the place and wild, it had something for everybody. Once I give you that freedom with a character of your own design, it gets even better because you get to personalize it and have all that like zaniness for your own in your games. And in role-playing games, that's part of it. Is like players can derail. They can go where they want to do what they want to go, do what they want to do. And so that transition was wonderful. But some mediums are like some stories are like so focused on one character, for example. How do you make that a party? Like, and that can just feel like a watered down version, even at its core, So, it is very interesting. But, what I was going to mention with the IP thing is that's also why often with an IP, there is the pitch meeting because what do the creators want to know is they want to find a person, like there are other game designers or publishers, but when they talk to you, if you get to talk to the creators, I mean, it's not always the people who hold the rights, but they basically are like, what are you going to do with this? And you tell them and they can tell what you care about, like what you care about, what you think makes Chew or Ghost in the Shell. And obviously if that doesn't sync, it's like, see ya. So that is a different layer to how you pick or how you get to the right fit for a game or game design. Is that there's a spirit and essence of like that every artists or creators all have, right? Is that these tenets of like, I think this is Ghost in the Shell is this, this, and this.
Right.
There's a lot of arguments and not really arguments, but a lot of people are like, maybe there's one vision, there's 3 vision, there's 5 visions, there's 13 vision, whether they're pillars or visions or, but these are the elements that like when you make these choices and you go, should it have this? You go back to these 3 things. You go, well, not really reinforcing those things. So cut it, because eventually you'll be making a lot of cuts and that you revisit and you can lose focus of it, but you got to keep revisiting like at its core, what are we trying to do here?
Right. Yeah. I think this is a thing that we got to talk about, for our listeners, if they wanted to go back and listen, we got to talk a lot about when we were doing the Monty Python RPG about like what specifically makes it Monty
Monty
Python,
Python.
and like, and how do you, kind of say like, okay, the goal of this game is not to just like for your table to just quote the Holy Grail the whole way through. Like how do you make something that like it feels like that, but it isn't? And and I think you talked in your panel at GameholeCon that our listeners did not go to, but about like kind of having those tenets and like what it is like as a designer working with when somebody else has an idea and says like help me create this, like finding that balance between your own voice and what they want out of a game. And then you add an IP on top of it. It's like, oh, and also these, 20 years of content that we've already put out, making something that fits in there that doesn't like stop on what's already been made, but isn't just a game that recreates that already too. Yeah. Like there's a lot of things to balance there. Yeah. Like a lot of people and a lot of ideas to keep together.
In role-playing games in particular, like we're not an industry that's so incredibly lucrative. We're not a video game that might make them $2 billion or something, So when you go, especially the larger the creators are, I mean, often it becomes things of like, the reason why there's not like Harry Potter, the role-playing game, is probably just because the bare minimum of talking to them is more money than is required or even interested parties would even think is anywhere near lucrative, right? Like, and I've heard things like, okay, if you want to talk to them, it's like you got to show them $50,000 a year, and it's like, okay, and that's just to pay the royalty of like being able to talk to them to do the thing. Being able to
put the name on the game,
And you're like, okay, so the crowdfunding year, and then this other year, and you're like, okay, well then after that, you'd be like, can I stop? And they'd be like, yeah, pulp everything you have. So these become things that just don't fit our industry like it is currently. Right. So there's things where that is the limit, is that like we're small potatoes in some cases compared to different industries that are more lucrative when licensing kitchen utensils or video games or whatever, but but if people like role-playing games and they're cool with it, they may give you they may let you do it, but the big part is like, but for sure don't step on it. Like there's a lot of risk and there's little reward is often how they view it, right? So they're protective. They're happy to see something giving a licensed life, but the fear is always that. And we're seeing, I've talked to a lot of people lately who are like, they're like, no crowdfunding. And it's just that, like the risk of you just putting your foot in your mouth with our license in some way when there's a lot of people looking, you want to put it on shelves in the game store. Like we want it to be successful, but we're more worried that you could hurt it. Which is, it is a little bit of a, like a, that's I don't know if an oxymoron, but like opposing forces are there. And it's very funny when you talk to the creators the publishers who are stuck, which not saying anything about Kodansha and Mana Project has no, but other creators I've talked to.
No, for sure.
There are some interesting sticky situations of like, do you want it to do well?
Right. Like here's what you need to do. And they're like, but that's not how we do any of our other, IP stuff. And you're like, but this is not how this industry works too.
Yeah. Yep, so, they're very much like, go ahead and make us money, but don't do any of these things that may hurt us. And then that list really starts to like, overlap. So,
Okay, well, that was kind of a lot of sidebar, but it was all things that I wanted to ask about because I get excited about things. Our last question, really, before we jump into our character creation, is just if you think there are any terms or concepts that people need to know to be able to follow along. Sometimes it's just like, no, I'll tell you when it comes up, but if there's any big...
So because of like this is such a well-known property that's like permeated through so many other things that you've seen, whether or not you like into Ghost in the Shell, but like if you know like the Matrix, you might know half the things that you need to know.
Right. I do know what a hacker is.
Permeated culture.
I know. Yeah. It's a net. I'm familiar.
So they're limited things, but stuff like we call the internet the net. Newport City is the major new Tokyo kind of city that we were in. We have places that are called like prefectures. You won't need this for making characters, but like instead of provinces, right? So there's some basic terminology that comes with just how they describe the world. But for the most part, everything is going to be pretty straightforward. We say things like prosthetics a lot, enhancements. And this is just like, they don't really ever say cyberware. Cyberware became something that other people who talked about the same things later did. So I'm going to say these things in common talk at times, but you'll also see a lot of mentions we have will mention prosthetics maybe more than it needed to at times. And that's just like sticking true to like what was said, And I think that's partially, it says a lot about like where it was, that these cybernetics means it's so commonplace. We came up with like a whole subfield of the technology that,
Right.
for society. But like when they were still just prosthetics, and prosthetics are intended to be like a limb because you've lost one. Not like a prosthetic body. That like defeats the purpose of the idea of a prosthetic. I mean, prosthetic by definition, that still works. But you know what I mean? Like the term has always been like metered out.
We've used it. Yeah.
A cyber brain isn't a prosthetic, like it just so you're also seeing how like it crosses over into what will become cyberware and cyborgs. They say android a lot, but I think that's also of the time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Also before it became a brand name and its own separate thing.
You'll see like they use like Ace being like, Ace Sniper or Ace an Ace cyber body or something might be like, Primo, right? Or something.
Right,
and
yeah.
Like you'll see mention a wizard class hacker, which is just like right? You can derive what it means, right? Is that like you're a hacker so good that you basically doing magic, right? So wizard class is a way of saying like this phenomenal hacker. But I think there's a couple like terms that are like, like biz or whiz or something, but nothing that really stuck through all of it I can think of.
Okay.
Oh, last one. Logicoma and Tachikoma. I did not bring this up early, and I probably should because everybody loves the cute mascot-like thing of any property. It's a spider tank. It's a spider tank that's maybe the size of a small car, like a small little electric car kind of thing. And people who are familiar with Ghost in the Shell will have seen this multiple times.
Iconic.
Yeah,
and terrifying.
Iconic. So in Arise, they called them Logikomas, but more often they were called Tachikomas. And the Logikoma was because they were often used as like for logistics, like, analytics. So that's why but people usually refer to it as a Tachikoma. So anyway, that is a character playbook that you will be introduced to. So it's probably good that you know what I'm talking about. And they usually have a form of like AI. And they're often picked on for being like tin cans, like garbage cans, old tech, all these kinds of things because they're super modern for us today. But like for them, they're like, couldn't you have been like fine-tuned, made much smaller, like a toaster? Like why are you like a small car?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, but they're kind
Hard
of
to get through
adorable.
doorways.
They are
They're
pretty
kinda
great.
cute.
Yeah. And there's a lot of cutesy, Ghibli versions of them everywhere too.
Yeah.
So.
All right.
Excellent. Well, are we all set to make some people?
Yes, 100%.
But
awesome. Let's make some people.
Let's make some people.
We are opening up the quick start. And for those of you listening, I believe it's going to be the same identical quick start. So we are getting a 1.1 release, I hear shortly. So we are on page 46 of this quick start. And there is the character sheet in all its glory. In the quick start itself, we are on page... Quick character creation, page 33. Okay. So following right along, I did grab this other little note page that I wanted to go back to in a minute. 33. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to pick your playbook because it's really going to guide play. Sorry, sometimes reading rules or saying them out loud sound dumb. I apologize.
You're going to say the word
Playbooks are going to guide play
so many times.
So play the book and book the play.
Yes, you're going to play the book in the game to game the play.
There are 6 different playbooks, at least so far. We have the Elite Ranger, and I'm reading these verbatim, but they're pretty good. I think I might have wrote these, but is a battle.
If I do say so myself.
Yeah, right. If you write it good the first time, the second time you'll be very pleased with yourself, right? So, the Elite Ranger is a battle-hardened, experienced soldier with a heavily enhanced body, like Bato. You could be the wizard hacker. That is an unstoppable hacker seamlessly navigating the net, invading cyberbrains, and operating on the field, like Major Kusanagi. Or the special investigator, who is an experienced operative of law enforcement, infiltration specialist, smooth talker, and sharp as a knife, like Togasa or Paz. The heavy weapons expert is a demolitions and forensic expert who specializes in heavy weapons and unraveling crime scenes, like Borma. The ace sniper is a cybernetically enhanced ace marksman specializing in eagle eye reconnaissance perched from high vantage points like Saito. And the Logicoma. is a childlike AI logistics model spider tank that excels at a stealthy shield, vehicle, and processing power, like Logicoma.
That is a stretch, but I'll allow it.
Yeah. One
Uh-huh.
of the things that, unfortunately, since you're not using the sheets that we play tested with that had the playbook specific sheets, because, I want you to use the one we have
Yeah.
because it's the one people will have to, is
Mhm.
the Logicoma's name is written in on the sheet. It says your name is Logicoma. And it is a really wonderful thing as a game experiment because as you'll see making your characters, and obviously the theme I tried to say a lot in talking about the game is identity in man versus machine
Mhm.
and how that deals with identity for us as a species, as people, as individuals. So it's really neat because in the fiction, the Logicoma often, right, gets talked as outdated tech. They get talked down
Mhm.
to as like a tin can or a garbage can. And at the same point, while we're all meddling with characters who have some kind of a balance between man versus machine, it's interesting how we treat the Logicoma. Like an AI creation that is completely android, has no humanity, and how we deal with them. Because very often, even in the series, they're often denigrated. They're called Logicoma or shut up Logicoma and kicked to the side as a machine. So it's very interesting how players lean with that because sometimes they ask the question, sometimes it encourages them to fight for their identity, becoming more of a claptrap-like character of like, I will be a real boy one day or human or whatever it is, and then others who then go, I guess I am just a machine. So it adds an interesting layer of character insight as well and player chemistry.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like an interaction between us and our digital assistants, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And at what point, even though we know it's another player, at what point do they get to be real? As we all look at ourselves and somewhat hypocritically say we're real, even if my whole body's not.
As we slowly become more machine, but then denigrate the machine itself. Yeah.
Yeah. So as you take a look at those descriptions, you pick a playbook right at the top of your sheet. One of the best things about Forged in the Dark games is that the number of players, since every rule in the game, the base mechanics, the action roll system, always characterizes the unique situation the player who is rolling is in. The best thing about that is it scales so incredibly well. So obviously having a group of specialists, this is a game where I imagine you won't rerun in solo that much, but you could because the mechanics will work very well for it. And I love that about you, and I love that about this. It's just a very neat thing that like if you got 2 players, it's gold. If you got 3 players, it's gold. If you got 4 players, it's gold. The only problem is maybe the upper limit when you start getting, and that's just a spotlight. There's only so many people to give time.
Yeah.
But in this game, like still 6 is not overly unwieldy for what you would think. As a person who likes 3 or 4 players, 6 isn't overly unwieldy. So
yeah,
very cool.
What playbooks did we pick so far?
I kind of would like the special investigator.
All right.
If that's cool with you, Ryan.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I was thinking, like, if this were a video game, I would be probably the sniper if we were more combat focused.
Yeah.
Or the hacker if we were more stealthy focused. But I also love a good hacker, and what you had said previously about how hacking's kind of unique in this game for a cyberpunk game. I really want to dive into the wizard hacker.
Awesome. You said that, and I was like, I almost should have encouraged you to, because it's just not. I can't. As the game design daddy, I shouldn't say my favorite, but I just mean like it just.
You're
shines,
allowed to have favorites,
right? Because it's just got that. It's the thing that sings here, right? Because it's just uniquely different. Not that you can't do these things in other games, but sure, they don't let you. Like they try really hard not to. So
exactly. So Pete, which one do you want?
Oh, should I make one too?
Yes.
You better.
100%.
Those are the rules. You have to make one too.
Oh,
I got a little clicky here. I would have jumped immediately on the special investigator also. And now that I knew for sure, I would have been. So it's great that you really grabbed the top two. I mentioned earlier as a joke, because obviously when you make playbooks, you're always watching like which ones do people grab, which ones they hold on to, which ones they look at. So the sniper always gets love because people love the sniper. They just love the sniper. It's a little bit of that anti-hero thing and that solo, but I'm the group person. I think it just comes with more personality. Our ranger is great. Like our soldier is awesome. But for the purposes of this, I think I'm going to take the Legicoma because again, one of the most popular, but for the people who won't get to play this soon and will be listening to this, I think they'll get the most out of that. So,
all
right. Legicoma.
The wizard hacker.
Yeah. All right. So, I'm actually going to, the next thing is real easy. We're going to set our ghost and our shell. And you have 3 choices. You're going to either have a loadout of 4 ghost and 2 shell, 3 ghost and 3 shell, or 2 ghost and 4 shell. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the character sheet page I have in here in the quick start, but you have it at the top of your sheet, that big cool cyber brain that's got like 2 halves on it. The whole sheet is designed so the left side of it is interacting with the ghost and the right side of it is interacting with the shell, which has, for our purposes, is kind of like mental and physical, is mind versus body. You're going to see most of the wheelhouses of mental related activities and social related activities come out of the left side, and most of our physical stuff coming out of the right side. And that's all by design. And then as we go down, you're going to see that like the cybernetic stuff is all on the right side of the page as the natural stuff is on the left, and that'll continue. Now, at the top, for those listening, there is this cyberbrain, and it's got a bunch of words that are actions, and they have little circles by them to fill in, and they plug into the brain. It's what we call them action wires. So you work from the brain and work outward. So any basic character is going to have an interface action, a sway action, a CQC action, and a track action, and observe at the bottom. So these are kind of the base actions of how you'll interact when you go to roll for something in the game is through one of these kind of wheelhouses. CQC stands for close quarters combat. So in a way of like melee fighting for a lot of people. Tracking is broad in the way that it's not just like following, but also like tracking with your eyes. So like aiming, for example. Interfacing is not just searching the net. Or like, because, how do we gather information even today? We're kind of interfacing with our technologies is how we gather information. So in that same idea, interface becomes that default like mental check. And then sway is like how much sway you have over people, right? So it's our default charm, right? It's our default like ability to persuade. Now, as you pick playbooks, when we get to the abilities, you're going to begin to add other actions that you have building out from the brain. But these are the 4 core tracks that kind of build outward. We call them the action wires.
Cool.
Nice.
So I just wanted to spell that out for the audience. So when we get to those, you also see, right, the actions on the left side, ghost is on the left side. They kind of interact together. Shell, right side, physical things, right side. Okay. So from your loadout, as a hacker, you clearly want more ghost because you're going to use interface and hack and dominate. These kinds of things are on your left side of your sheet. What these attributes mean for you is that they're kind of like your health in those fields. They're also a base level of strength in those fields. So your shell score gives us an idea of like how durable you are, how hardy you are, but also like at your core of physical strength, like how strong you are in comparison to like average folk. So average numbers on these are usually 3 and 4. So in these cases, you can see how you could build beyond these. Well, as you build your characters, you'll start to see like how maybe you get a 5 or a 6 starting out or something. So your ghost and your shell really are determined by which sort of way you attack your problems.
Okay. So I think mine were pretty easy to set 4 ghost and 2 shell.
That's what I did too, just because that's who I am as a person. So and what I like to play.
You've got that whole like front person, the face of the party, right?
The only benefit is there's one benefit to having 3/3 is you get one more enhancement later on. So we'll always be able to go back, but you might later be like, oh, these are so cool. oh wait, if I have a 3 at each score, I get 1, but if I have a 2, I don't get any, and that side of the thing. So, okay.
I'll keep that in mind.
Ghost in the
Tentatively.
shell. We got actions.
What's Logicoma going for your
There
Ghost
was
in
one
Shell?
more thought I had there. I'm going to go 3-3.
Okay.
It'll come back to me. There was one more thought that I thought was design-wise. Got to pepper those design things in there. Okay. Moving on, the first ability. So if you're in the book, right, we're on page 34 and we're kind of going 34, 35. What do you call these? The quick start has got a brief amount of abilities instead of your core, 8 to 12 of these or so on. As you're looking at these, you're each given one by the quick starts rules, which give you something really cool, usually unlocking a new action. So the special investigator, you unlock command, which you'll see is beyond sway. So you're just going to fill in that little circle. And we got the other page. The wizard hacker has hack. These. So the wizard hacker, just reading again for the readers, has a starting ability that says mind hack. So they are plugging in the hack action into the interface wire. You can hack the net or the cyber brains and the prosthetic enhancements of others. And special investigator is plugging in, we call it authority. They're plugging in the command action into the sway wire. You talk and people listen. Your drive commands respects. Now, beyond that, on page 35, you'll see that there's 2 options for every one of the playbooks. So go ahead and read those and see which one stands out to you. And while I do that, the Logicoma starting ability is called AI. Plug the hack action. Now, this is an interesting one. And the precision action into the interface wire. You are a machine. You can use the interface wire while performing other non-demanding tasks.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
multitasking.
When we have cyber brains, you'll see that later as an enhancement too. You can do more than one thing.
Parallel processing.
Yeah, but one of the things we'll explore a lot more in the future that's really interesting is obviously you're seeing some of the wires leading out in linear lines, but like we don't have the Ranger, and the Ranger has the Soldier ability, which actually connects CQC and track.
Yeah.
And can then be used along either or line. So it's much more versatile. Yeah. Or in this case with the Logicoma, where you're seeing things that are on one side reroute. And obviously that opens up the door that there can be additional actions, especially like based on different shells in the future. And I think this touches back on what I was going to say a minute ago is you don't know this, but if you're reading the quick start, your ghost can't be taken away from you. I mean, he can in the fiction and through play.
Yeah.
In the way that like when we reduce your ghost to 0, we can falsify your memories. We can erase your memories. We can brain fry you. We can dominate you and puppet string you. And these are all, I mean, deliciously dark things that we don't usually get to do in games like this, which adds a whole new layer of, you thought your souped up soldier was awesome. In most cyberpunk games, it is. It's the coolest thing. But I don't know if it's more awesome than the hacker right there, who can, you know, play you like a guitar if they want to, you know. So
right. Okay.
But the flip side of that is, sorry, just a last thought was,
go ahead.
But your shell after this core character creation session, you will each have a cyber brain other than the special investigator, usually, unless they design it differently. And what that means is like your whole body can be replaced, which means that everything on the right side of this character sheet that's attached to shell could just be changed in the fiction.
Interesting.
So your attachment to whatever that is can be fleeting, but also can be session 2 could be upgraded, right? Yeah. So it's an interesting dynamic.
That's wild.
But partially, obviously, right? Like, what do you get to keep? What is you? So
yeah. Okay, so we're on the special ability choices right now.
What'd you pick?
In the wizard hackers, I've got choices between wizardry to plug the dominate action into the interface and you can dominate the minds you hack, or you can't see me, where you get plus CQC and plus effect when sneaking or hiding. And I mentioned, like I said before, I like to be a hacker when I'm sneaking and hiding. So I'm going to choose you can't see me for that one.
Can't see me. Somewhere John Cena fans rejoiced.
Yeah. So yeah, one of my options is that you can add plus effect to all recon rolls. What is plus effect? What does that do in play?
Yeah. So in Forge in the Dark games, we have these 2 meters which we judge all the rolls. So the players and the game master get very familiar with these very fast, which one of my favorite things about that is the game master kind of teaches players how to run the game every time they play the game, because they teach them the one thing we kind of sorely lack in role-playing games is how do you judge rolls? You just kind of know or you don't over time. And in Forge in the Dark games, they kind of are teaching you. So by taking into effect different factors. So every time you go to do something on a 1 to 5 scale, really 1 to 4, because 1's like no effect or no threat, but for some reason we're still rolling. I'm going to tell you based on how you describe your action, what you plan to do, intend to do. I'm going to say that sounds a certain level of risk, which is the situation you're in, and a certain level of effect of how effective I think it is. And these are gamified terms. So when you have plus effect, it literally increases the effect you would have when you use that thing.
Oh, okay.
So
if it goes well, yeah.
And since there's a range of 1 to 5, so if it had no effect, like if I was literally throwing peas at a tank, when you throw peas at a tank, it has the first level of effect, which means it could actually damage it somehow. So that's literally what it does. It can change the possibility when it comes to that one step. But more often than not, you're going to be like, oh, I'm good at this, and now I'm great at this, or this is a critical success if I succeed. And you're going to know right off the bat because you're going to stack multiple of these pluses.
Yeah.
Minuses are the same. Like, okay, most people are effective at this thing. You're not. Like you are less effective as a baseline. And usually that happens because of one of your playbook abilities on someone else, right? Like you have an effect. You do this to other people usually. The situation part, though, is so when you go to do things, for the most part, let's say it's risky. That's kind of a baseline. I am making you roll because it's of a basic level of challenge, and it should have a standard level of effect and a risky challenge kind of thing. When you can reduce the situation, you are making it less threatening when you do it. More often what happens is it becomes more threatening, but you get a benefit. Is kind of what happens usually. You get more effect, but it's also more threatening. So you put more on the line, you get more out of it. It's usually how that works.
Yeah. Got it.
So when you see the plus effect, that's kind of obvious. Sometimes you'll see plus and it'll say ghost or shell. That's literally raising the number of your attribute. And sometimes it says an action. So it is when you're using that action.
Okay.
So it's not effect in that situation. It's only when you're using that thing. So
yeah. I'm going to take that one then. And so it's on the case and it adds plus effect to all recon rolls. So
yeah. And then recon is our gather information roll. So obviously you don't live in this world. You don't know all the inner workings of Ghost in the Shell or the cyberpunk world or all the stuff that I don't tell you because you only need to know what you need to play. Right. And I don't need to know how many brothers the prime minister has. I just don't.
Right.
So when you need some information on something that has no threat, you roll recon. And then it tells the game master how much information to give you. Obviously giving you the possibility that we give you the wrong information. But it's usually giving you also straightforward answers and stuff. So you having more recon is because, that's what you are good at, is gathering information. You're an investigator, whether that's interrogating or talking or looking through the notes or
So you're automatically more effective at all your recon.
Yes.
Yeah, which is very helpful. It depends on play, right? And that's a lot, what you'll see with any of these games with Playbooks is they give you so much more style of how to play. So it starts leaning into what strengths you have and which ways you like to play the game is which playbooks you should choose, right? So, so the Logicoma has 2 choices, the Protector or the Childlike Naivete. They're both wonderful. I always like pointing out that the Childlike Naivete is there because, you plus sway when asking innocent questions like a curious child. It adds so much character to play. But Protector is equally awesome because there's so much utility in being a small spider tank. So Protector, you can defend another, taking the damage on their behalf. Being the size of a small car, you can easily shield several others when grouped together, plus shell when defending another. So, Protector.
I like that one.
Yeah.
Call to action.
Yeah, like that.
Well, Ghost in the Shell, it was a lot of fun to create characters for. I love this world. I love the world building that the shows have kind of and the movies have kind of built around this like cyberpunk world. It's truly a fascinating world, and like Pete says, it really deals with that philosophical portion of the cyberpunk existence effectively. Like a lot of cyberpunk games are all about the cyber and all about the punk. But this one kind of gets into a lot of those more philosophical details, which is really cool. And so like learning about the different things that we could create in this world was phenomenal. And I cannot wait for next episode, which is not going to be that long because we're going to be releasing it very shortly, right after this episode. So stay tuned for that. But before we let you go for the day, we do have some calls to action. First up, speaking of Ghost in the Shell, this campaign is going very nicely. They are well over their funding goal, sitting just shy of $300,000 out of their $11,500 goal. Lots of stuff going on there. 15 days to go. Lots more stretch goals that are out there and ready to be unlocked, and they all look really exciting. So if you haven't checked out this game yet, definitely check it out and give it a backing, because it is pretty phenomenal by a phenomenal studio and a phenomenal game designer. Our Undying Bonds live stream, currently still in flux. We're still trying to figure that out with the network to see what days are actually available for us to stream on and to get an actual network streaming schedule in place. I will check in with the powers that be and see what we can do there. But we are working with them to figure all of that out so we don't run into any more conflicts going forward. But as soon as we have something solid to share, we will definitely post about it on Blue Sky and our Discord at discord.charactercreationcast.com, or even on our Patreon as a free member, or of course here in the calls to action. You can join us on any of those communities to get the latest updates. Speaking of, we would love it if you checked out the C3 Patreon at patreon.com/charactercreationcast. We are slightly behind our funding goal to get to that original $160 a month goal, and we would love to order some enamel pins and send them out to our campaign level patrons. Just one campaign backer that is new will be able to put us over that mark and get you a whole ton of cool stuff. If we can get to $200 a month, not only will that unlock yearly subscriptions for our supporters at a discount, it will also mean that we can afford to pay Fiona, our webmaster, a bit more every month to update the backlog of games on our site as well. We can get there by the end of the year with just a few more campaign level backers. And at that $10 level, you get a load of stickers, our custom 3d6 set of C3 dice from ChessX, all of our bonus episodes, and a lot more. The other tiers have some great perks as well, so check it out if you have a chance. In addition to all of that, we do like to thank our current patrons every episode. Your support truly helps out a great deal, so let's go ahead and do that right now. Thanks to Lieutenant DJG, aka Tigranosaurus, and Eric Bonds. So glad to have you backing us. Thanks to Daryl Holiday II, Shadim Kabal, and the Shyest Barbarian. We are very glad to have you with us. Benjamin Sweeney, Rob Fletcher, and Kevin Brown, thank you all so much. Tentacle Duck, John Adamus, and A3 Sketchpad, you all rock. Thank you. Carlos Salazar, Eric S., and Ian Botmeyer, thanks for supporting our dreams. Liam G., Brian Coleman, Garden GM, thanks for making all this possible. Many thanks to Tanglefoot, Blue Kryptonite, and Danny. Thanks to Nicole Trainer, Leah Murray, and Kenning. Very glad to have you with us. Brian Kurtz, Marky Fair, and True Owen, many thanks to all of you. Oz, Sean Metcalf, and Robert, thanks for making this all possible. Kevin Bates, Deadly Edley, and Allison Cole, thank you all so much. And finally, Blue Scholar, thanks for believing in us. And thank you to all of our future patrons. If you want to join this phenomenal group of individuals, please head on over to patreon.com/charactercreationcast and help us out. And with more assistance, we'll be able to make those website upgrades to make exploring your favorite games that much easier. And if you want to join in the discussion with our hosts, some of our guests and a bunch of fans, head on over to our Discord at discord.charactercreationcast.com. Finally, if you want to help us out in another way that doesn't require any money, you can leave a rating and review for our show on Apple Podcasts, Podchaser, or Podcast Addict. We will read every new 5-star review as soon as we get them, and as we both have a chance to read together. I think there's one waiting for me and Amelia to get together to be able to read, so that will be exciting. That's all we have for today's episode. You can join us here next time when we finish creating our characters for Ghost in the Shell. Until then, take care, everyone. Stay safe, drink some water, and keep making those amazing people. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for joining us for part 2 of this character creation series. We'll be back in part 3, picking up right where we left off.
Character Creation Cast is a production of the One Shot Podcast Network and can be found online at www.charactercreationcast.com. Head to the website to get more information on our hosts, this show, and even our press kit. Character Creation Cast can also be found on Twitter and Blue Sky at CreationCast, or on our Discord server at discord.charactercreationcast.com. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan Bolter, and I can be found on Twitter and Blue Sky at Lord Neptune or online at lordneptune.com. Our other host, Amelia Antrim, can be found on Twitter and Blue Sky at Ginger Reckoning. Music for this episode is used with a Creative Commons license or with permission from the podcast they originated from. Further information can be found within the show notes. Our main theme music is Hero Remix by Steve Combs and is used with a Creative Commons license. This podcast is owned by us under Creative Commons. This episode was edited by Ryan Bolter. Further information for the game systems used and today's guests can also be found in the show notes. If you'd like to support our show, find us on Patreon. Get access to bonus episodes, exclusive merch, and much more at patreon.com/charactercreationcast. Thanks for joining us. And remember, we find that the best part of any role-playing game is character creation. So go out there and create some amazing people. We'll see you next time.